The motor vehicle accident expansion contains some of the best rescue work I have ever experienced in a firefighting game. Cutting away a vehicle's door, removing the roof, and then physically lifting a dashboard to free a person's trapped legs is absolutely brilliant. Unfortunately, commanding the firefighters who are supposed to be there to assist me can feel like trying to organise a group of distracted toddlers at the side of a burning motorway. That contradiction defines the entire expansion. The new equipment and the rescue procedures and the events that you can be drawn to, absolutely excellent. The incident design is difficult, layered, and often genuinely challenging and exciting. But the more complicated these emergencies become, the more it highlights the existing AI problems which still threaten to bring everything crashing down if you're not careful. The motor vehicle accident expansion meaningfully changes what I do during an incident. I'm no longer simply connecting a hydrant, establishing an attack line, and extinguishing another fire. These road accidents combine trapped casualties, wrecked vehicles, fallen trees, damaged fuel containers, and the most scary of all, spreading liquid and several simultaneous fires. The hydraulic rescue tool, for me, is easily the strongest addition. I absolutely love this thing. The animations on it are absolutely superb. Unfortunately, a casualty cannot be simply pulled through a damaged door, so you need to remove that door first. This is done by cutting through the hinges and then taking the door off. Further cuts through the roof pillars allow you to fold the roof away, and then you can also cut into the fenders in order to lift the dashboard and release a person's legs if they're trapped in there. Before any of this can happen, you have to call a medic over to give you a medical analysis of their situation. As much as I love all of this, both the medic and the casualty can sit engulfed in flames for as long as you like, and neither will take any damage whatsoever. It's a massive realism disappointment. When you're using the tool, it requires a bit of control. First of all, you have to position it correctly, and also sometimes the amount of pressure on the jaws gets too much, which means you have to ease off the pressure until the indicator turns from red back to green. That simple interaction really makes the equipment feel considerably more realistic. The whole thing becomes more involved. If it was just a case of press and hold a button, it wouldn't really feel quite as real as it actually does. Lifting the dashboard is a particular highlight. I love the tool. I love watching it apply the pressure and the dashboard slowly, physically raising up away from the casualty and releasing their legs. That's one of those moments where I stopped reviewing the game and just simply enjoyed it. It's absolutely brilliant. The Chainsaw 2 introduces a different mechanic. Instead of holding the trigger continuously, you have to pulse it, manage the cutting indicator whilst working through fallen trees and debris. It was awkward initially because I misunderstood the controls, but once I clicked, the process became absolutely satisfyingly brilliant. Now, there is a tutorial in the game for all of these new tools, but I was so excited to get involved, I didn't go and do that until possibly 5 or 6 missions in. So one of the things that I never understood until I went and did that training was plugging a leak. Plugging leaks is mechanically simple. You locate a leak and then put a sticky sealing compound over the hole to stop the liquid source pouring out all over the place. And if you don't do that, you will not complete the mission. It is absolutely lethal. The speed at which these liquid fires can spread is astonishing and frightening. Plugging a leak, now that I know how to do it, it's not as sophisticated as cutting someone from a vehicle, but it adds an important new priority. In fact, if anything, that is your priority over anything else. If you leave a leak untreated, flammable liquid can spread across the incident scene and then set alight with alarming speed. This can then have a knock-on effect. It will start heating up another fuel tank and you'll get the dreaded whistle. If you hear a whistle, something's about to blow, and when it blows, you've got liquid fires everywhere. Absolutely superbly done. Really, really well implemented. So the new, larger missions combine all of these systems effectively. At one accident, I had casualties trapped in several vehicles, a tree blocking the road, leaking barrels, spreading liquid fires, and a fuel tanker threatening to explode, which, for a good couple of times, it actually did. And that was extremely difficult on the hardest settings, but finally, bringing the incident under control felt like I'd genuinely earned it. Now, that being said, if I'd have understood the plugging mechanism, I may well have completed this mission sooner, but it was a real challenge and I enjoyed it immeasurably. So the expansion is at its best when focused on one casualty and working through the rescue process. A medic assesses the patient first. They will identify what is trapping them and ask you to remove the offending piece. So normally that involves removing the door, creating space around the passenger compartment, and then you'll either be cutting the pillars and removing the roof, or lifting the dashboard, or perhaps even both. Now sometimes there'll be 2 casualties in a car, meaning you're going to have to go around and deal with this on both sides. Each of the stages establish a believable rhythm. The tools also interact very, very visibly with the vehicle. You can see metal sections being crushed as the jaws close, or pushed and expanded as the jaws open. And it's wonderful to see that being done. As I say, the roof can be folded away, the dashboard can be lifted. Rather than simply triggering a finished animation, all of this is fully animated. Complex accident scenes are also convincing in principle. A road blocked by wreckage, emergency vehicles, firefighters, casualties, growing hazards immediately feels more serious than your conventional structure fire in a building. However, immersion does take a hit whenever the game's logic stops respecting the danger. Medics will stand beside a casualty whilst the flames spread all around them without moving from their position. The trapped occupants in the car appear to be protected from all fire, no matter how bad it gets. I also encountered a rescue in which the game allowed the roof to be removed despite the opposite side of the car not being accessible and therefore not being cut. A disappointing situation that once again takes away from the level of realism and immersion that this game otherwise produces. So these kind of moments expose the machinery underneath what is otherwise a very, very convincing rescue simulator. But even with those problems, the actual act of freeing a casualty is so good that the expansion, in my humble opinion, remains not only deeply immersive, but a must-buy for anyone who has this game. Now, as I've said for years, audio plays an important part in immersion, and it also plays a practical role during larger incidents, for example. Dispatch information establishes the nature of the crash before you arrive. Firefighters and medics will communicate with you when victims are found, assessed or moved, or inaccessible, which is quite often the case. These calls are meant to help you understand what is going on across a crowded scene, but unfortunately, quite often, it just turns into chaos. The most effective and immersive new sound that they've added is the rising whistle from a pressurized container or tanker which is about to explode. I'm telling you now, it puts the fear of God into you. Once you hear that noise, you know something's going to explode. And you know that you're running out of time. Hearing it stop could mean one of two things. You have successfully controlled the hazard, or the explosion is mere seconds away. That created genuine tension because the sound was not merely atmospheric, it communicated an immediate threat effectively. The explosions, the emergency vehicles, and the constant instant chatter also gives these larger missions plenty of energy. Although, I have to repeat, the AI voices are distracting at times, often refusing to do things that I haven't asked them to do, or constantly repeating themselves. So I've got to give massive kudos for all of the visual work which has been applied to the equipment and the rescue animations. The hydraulic tool looks heavy and purposeful. Its jaws clamp hard against damaged bodywork. The dashboard is pushed and creaks and cracks as it opens up under pressure, and the vehicle roof folds back once you've made all the correct cuts, and it's just brilliant the way that all of this has been implemented. The chainsaw equally, similarly clear. You're cutting the top and then you're cutting from underneath in order to stop that sort of spring effect that quite often happens when you're cutting a piece of wood under pressure. Liquid fires also spread visibly across the road, making what was initially a very simple, straightforward extraction turn into something extremely difficult and challenging. And just the sight, the visual sight of a liquid spreading across the floor, you know what's coming next. It's going to ignite and you're going to be absolutely consumed by flames. Now, there are some visual inconsistencies, as I've mentioned before, being able to remove the roof when you haven't cut all of the pillars, and the medics and the passengers stuck inside their cars who can sit there completely unharmed despite being absolutely consumed by flames. I've said it before, and I've given many recommendations to the developers to help improve this situation, but the AI remains the game's biggest weakness. Now, whilst it's not specifically associated with the DLC, I do believe the AI have had a bit of a boost. On some occasions, I found that the AI was so effective at their job that I didn't actually get a chance to use any of the tools. That is a massive plus, because getting people out of harm's way is your number one priority, and having an AI who's actually quite good at that does take the pressure off quite a bit. Although firefighters regularly accept my instructions, they will start the assigned job, then they tend to wander off only after a few seconds. Instead of waiting until that fire has been put out and then moving on to something else, they actually just sort of wander off and do what they want. I've mentioned to the developers multiple times, we need very bare minimum to be able to chain 4 commands per firefighter. So you need to be able to say to them, I want you to put this fire out here, I want you to go to this fire until that one's out, I want you to go and save those people. As long as you can chain it in that order, then they can respond back to you and say, I've been unable to complete stage 2 of what you said, or whatever. It could be improved vastly. Although it's slightly better now, it's still a problem. Quite often, commands are rejected without a reasonable explanation. Other times, the game will claim a firefighter could not reach a task, despite that task being only a very short distance away. Or worse still, refusing to do what I have asked them to do when I haven't actually asked them to do anything, which suggests that somewhere down the line from a long time ago, a request was made upon them and it's only now being realised or dealt with. Physical obstructions make this worse. There's a car, there's liquid fires on both sides. Unfortunately, I was unable to control my team and get them to focus on what I needed them to focus on the other side of the car, because I was this side of the car trying to deal with exactly the same problem. Now that can be damaging to any mission, but it becomes critical here because this expansion expects several urgent jobs to happen simultaneously. The way in which the fire and the danger can spread in this DLC is unlike anything I've seen before. It can happen so quickly and things can get so out of control so fast, you're more than likely going to wind up in it and injured yourself. An example, if you will, whilst I'm busy cutting someone from a vehicle, I need another firefighter to contain a liquid spill and contain a liquid fire. Someone else needs to plug that leak, and another team member may need to go and rescue a casualty who's in the line of danger. Unfortunately, if any one of these AI fail to do any of those jobs, the whole incident can then very quickly escalate, and you're going to have an explosion, and a mission failure. And that's before you can do anything. You cannot physically reach the problem. You cannot physically do everything. You are reliant on a team. I also encountered one of the ember bugs. Let's call them ember bugs, where a fire is out, but for an almost invisible ember, which you cannot get to because of its location. You can finally put the fire out, but it's very difficult to get visibility on it, and very difficult to get the hose pipe aimed on it as well. So whilst the game could be doing a lot more with the AI and a lot more in terms of realism, this is a DLC you cannot afford to miss. It really, really enhances the game on a considerable number of levels. So the SimShack pillar system allows us to give bonus points for realism and hardware support, and whilst there is no hardware support, I did mention whilst driving the fire truck to an instant how cool it would be if we could hook up a wheel and pedals and actually drive the vehicle realistically like that. I don't see that coming anytime soon, which is a bit of a shame, but I will give the game a massive realism bonus, 8 out of 10, because the expansion earns a strong bonus because it represents several genuine categories of road traffic rescue. I have to create access to casualties, remove structural parts of a vehicle, lift trapping components, clear fallen debris, control leaking hazards. These are not just cosmetic animations, they create distinct procedures and priorities, and it allows these incidents to escalate in a way that they never could before. The strongest element has to be the sequencing. A casualty with trap legs may require the dashboard to be lifted, another may need the roof to be removed. The game communicates the rescue method required, depending on the condition of the vehicle and the occupant. However, it's still not an uncompromising simulation. The hydraulic tool mechanic asks me to manage pressure, but the consequences, I think, could be stronger. If you don't manage it properly, what should happen is the tool breaks. Then you have to go and get another one. That's what I'd like to see, that level of realism introduced into the game. Victims and medics also need to respond consistently to fire exposure. The medic should run off if they suddenly find themselves in the middle of a liquid fire. The occupant in the vehicle should die, and the game shouldn't end just because somebody has died. We should, at the end, see how effective we have been. Now, I understand that, that may potentially require some sort of graphical interface where we see burnt, charred bodies, but this is 2026, and I think, the way that television and movies have gone, this is not going to be overly challenging for most people. So, for extra realism, I would like to see people die and missions continue, and then the number of people that you saved out of a possible 10, let's say, should be reflected in your final score. So, just to sum everything up, the motor vehicle accident expansion is exactly the kind of DLC that I want to see. It introduces new equipment, new procedures, new tactical problems, and it doesn't merely give me another fire engine or another collection of similar buildings to play with. It's an absolutely game-changing DLC. Vehicle extraction is clearly the highlight here. The cutting of the doors and lifting of the dashboards, folding the roof away. That is incredibly satisfying, visually convincing, and mechanically more involved than most firefighting game interactions are. The chainsaw and leak sealing system also broaden the role, whilst the larger accident missions create some of the most difficult and memorable incidents that I've played in the game. But the AI continues to be an irritation. When an incident depends on several firefighters working together in unison, having AI associates who are unreliable at fulfilling commands or just abandoning tasks and inconsistent pathfinding issues directly cause missions to fail, and I think that must be addressed. It's the only thing that really holds the game back. The level of simulation also needs to be more believable. Casualties need to become casualties. Stricter rescue sequencing and scoring systems that recognise partial success, saving 6 out of 10 people, rather than just treating every death as a complete failure. If I go to an incident and I save 9 people's lives and 1 person dies, I feel like I've done a good job. not a perfect job, but a good job. And I think that should be reflected in the game. Even with these highlighted issues, I really genuinely recommend this expansion to existing players. It's a must-have. It contains some of the most enjoyable, convincing, and challenging rescue work that firefighters have to face on a daily basis, and I think it's absolutely superb.
Dear sir or madam, will you read my CV? It took me years to get here. Will you let me be? I've always wanted to be a hero of the day, and I need a job, so I wanna be a firefighter. Firefighter. It's a fire story of a fiery day, and my clinging wife doesn't understand my way. His son is working for the police, it's a steady job, but I want the flames, the heat, and feel like a knob. I keep saying this is it, can't you see? I need adventure, it's burning inside me. Firefighter, firefighter. It's 1,000 fires, give or take a few. I'll be ready up in a week or two. If you like my style, I can do it with flair, and I wanna be a firefighter. At your request, I swear. If you really like it, you can have my hat. It could start 1,000,000 fires for you. How about that? If you must return it, you can send it here. But I need a break, my future's finally clear. Firefighter, firefighter. It's a fiery tale that I can't deny. One last chance, give me the sky. Fire's calling, I'm ready this time, and I wanna be a firefighter. Just let me shine. Every ember and flame calls out my name. I'm more than just a dream, I'm in this game. From the ground to the heights, I'll soar, I'll fly. I'm standing here waiting, holding my head high. Firefighter, firefighter. It's 1,000 fires plunge into the hue. I'll be ready, oh yes, for anything new. If you feel my passion, just take a chance, and I wanna be a firefighter. Let's start this dance. So dear sir or madam, my wish is true. In every heart I'll leave a spark with you. With a fire in my soul, I'm ready to start. So let me be